right, so we're up on 7:30 now. Let me just make sure we've got everything in the recording going. Call to order the regular board meeting of February 16th, 2021. If we could just pledge the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item on the agenda this evening is the approval of vouchers. Everyone had a chance to make it in and review them. If there's a motion to approve.
Make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the vouchers, the bills this month?
I just had a question about the payment to Mark. Is that part of our annual payment, or is it because he's just done extra this year for us due to the storm?
It's part of the annual. We haven't incurred any extra cost so far this year. Get through the next storm without doing it, as a question remains to be seen. Mindy, that's correct. There's no extra that Mark has requested so far.
That's his monthly payment.
He did cleaning on Division Street and some of the other streets in the village, and that was all done with his in-house equipment, so we didn't need to hire anybody extra.
Great.
That little bucket loader that went back and forth?
Yep,
Okay.
that was him. He can move smaller loads with that. If he needed to move anything larger or get it into the top of a dump truck, we'd have to rent a piece of machinery. Any other questions on vouchers? If not, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Let's go to approval of minutes for January 19th, 2021. I know that there was some conversation and some changes that were made over the last couple of weeks. Is there anything else that anyone has noticed? If not, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve?
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the minutes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Sorry, I'm just admitting people as they show up. The financial report, Mindy?
Okay, so our January balance was $220,146.26. Deposit up to February 16th, there was no deposit in February. Abstract number 9 was 13,685.11. Payroll number 2 was 4,548.16. So the expenses were 18,233.27. The total checking was $201,912.99. The savings account is $132,001.44, which is leaves our February balance at approximately $333,914.43. That's it.
Any questions for Mindy? Mindy, what that final balance was 331,994, and what were the
333,914.43.
0.43? All right, thank you.
$333,914.43.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for Mindy? If not, we'll move on to correspondence. Just one article from Altice. Do you want to just discuss this real quick, Mindy, or?
Altice, every once in a while, they just make these changes, and I'm a customer of theirs too, and it just happens. And it happened to me that I had to pick a new package all of a sudden recently. So when I get these things now emailed, I'm gonna share them with whoever, because, you know, the public, they need to know, everybody needs to know, they're making these changes. And so anybody who wants a copy of this, anyone in the audience, if you can't print it out, let me know. You know, these are available. It's like 3 pages of changes here. So I'm not going to read through it all, but I'm sure it's going to affect some people.
And there was a internet outage today in the village, I understand.
Yes.
Yeah, until about 2 o'clock, from about 11 to 2.
Ideally, Altice would maybe, instead of changing their channel packages around, you know, reinvest in some of the node work that they know that they need to do in this area. Yeah, I mean, if anybody is still experiencing outages, let the village know. We're still documenting them as we come across them. But again, we're being assured by Altice Optimum that they're doing everything they can, and that service isn't, you know, interrupted on their end as much as everyone's making it out to be, which we all know to be not true. No other communication. Let's move on to open issues, the delinquent taxes, Mindy.
You're on mute, Mindy.
Yeah, you're muted.
Sorry. Okay, so we have delinquent taxes in the amount of $2,299.67 that I need to relinquish to the county. And so I do need everybody's signature on this paper. So I'm gonna leave it on the back table for everyone to sign. It's 4 tax properties. So we relinquish it to the county reimburses us, and then they turn around and handle the collection.
All right. Is there a motion to relinquish the delinquent taxes to the county?
Make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Again, we do this every year for a property or a handful of properties that we need to collect. It has to go to the county before it comes back to us. All those in favor? Or do you have a question? Go ahead.
Mindy, what is the deadline for signing? Is it this week? We should all come in?
No, I mean, I have to get it through. No, I got to get it to them by the end of the month. So
Sooner the better.
Yeah, the sooner the better, but it doesn't, you know, if I needed it right away, I would have like gotten it around to you guys somehow. Crazy weather.
All right, is there a motion to, the motion's already been there, seconded. All those in favor of relinquishing the delinquent taxes to the county? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Election day. Mindy, do you want to talk about that?
Okay, so for election day, we have 4 candidates for our 2 trustee positions. And that, I mean, everybody's aware of that. So, I mean, as far as election day itself goes, we're going to be appointing for now 2 new election inspectors, and we're going to get them trained so that in the event that one of our, you know, people that we have been relying on constantly for all of our elections, in the event that somebody can't make it, we have an alternate that can fill in. And we always should, like every year, we should be training 1 or 2 more people to do that. So, you know, other than that, everything is, the sample ballot is out for everybody to see, review. I believe it's accurate. If there's anything wrong with it, please let me know. And other than that, just appointing the election inspectors, and we should be good to go.
And there's a registration day coming up on
March 6th.
March 6th in the village.
Yes, and we're working on a simplified absentee ballot application that I will have ready. I should have it ready tomorrow, actually. So we will have it posted at some point, but hopefully by the end of the day tomorrow.
But people can still use the absentee ballot application from the County Board of Elections as well.
Yes. and our old one too. I'm not gonna say, I'm not gonna use an old one because we have a new one. If somebody comes with an old one, it's fine.
And New York State has declared that COVID is a legitimate excuse for an absentee ballot request. So if anyone isn't comfortable coming to the polls, by all means, request an absentee ballot, and that's a legitimate use of the privilege. I guess I just need to appoint Kelly and David as election inspectors. I did get word that Donna Duncan also wanted to be involved as well. So if we want to add 3 inspectors, that way we have like a full slate of backups if need be.
That works for me.
Any discussion on that? I mean, Donna had reached out through Dave, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. This way, we do have a full backup if need be. Hopefully we don't. I'll leave it at that.
Mhm.
Dov, you have something, or?
Well, no, I'm just confused about who is backup, who isn't, and will all 6 of them currently be in the voting room? on
Yeah,
election?
I guess we need 3 that are actual election inspectors that day. All 6 will be trained. I guess I'll leave it up to the 3 alternates if they want to be there to experience and observe. We're doing this just in case anyone has a health issue or something like that and can't make it that day, that we're not left at the last second as looking for a fill-in from the county or something like that. I think I'd spoken to Kelly and David, and they were interested in kind of serving the day just to get the full experience of it. I don't know about Donna, but again, at least the training will be open to all 6.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
No, I'll reach out to Donna and get her in to sign the oath of office, because the inspectors have to sign that also.
Yep. I think that's everything we had on the actual agenda. Does anybody else have anything to report? I'll talk about, just snow removal. We're well aware that there's some tight streets and things like that. Mark, our highway guy, and his crew is aware of it. They cleaned up a lot of the areas in the village. They cleaned up Secor really well. The last car that was left there after the storm was moved earlier this morning so that we could facilitate the full cleanup of that lot. We do have another large storm on the horizon potentially for Thursday or into Friday, I guess. So we'll kind of play it by ear then. And if we find that after that, we need to come in with some larger equipment to clean up Main Street in those areas. I know, Dave, you had a conversation with the county about maybe getting some manpower and equipment for Main Street. But I mean, on some of the side streets, which isn't the county's responsibility, we can definitely undertake that.
And we'll try to get hold of the guy tomorrow. I didn't get a hold of him today.
All right.
And see what'll work out, because it's going to be pretty good when they say coming in this weekend, the end of the week.
Yeah, and then I hear rumors of stuff for the beginning of the week, and then a warm up after that. But we're just trying to be as cost conscious as possible and not spend all the money, way up front. We did have some pressure to get some equipment after that first storm in December that luckily we held off and didn't pull the trigger on it, and we kind of lucked out that the next storm fizzled out. But we did get hit pretty bad. It kept about a week or 2 ago, and we'll see what comes on Thursday. Anything else in terms of issues we've been talking about or discussing that anyone would like to throw out there before we go to public comment? All righty. Anybody from the public that would like to comment on any agenda items? We are going to be, after this, opening up a public hearing on the topic of short-term rentals. So stick around if that's what you're here for. It'll be immediately following this, but if there's any public comment that has to do with this agenda, please, by all means, unmute yourself and identify yourself and ask the question. And if not, we'll move on. I think think I just heard my wife drop a pin in the other room. All right, if there's no public comment on the meeting itself, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second,
All those in favor? Aye. And we'll just roll this right into the next part, which is the short-term rental, the first of a series of at least 2 public hearings and comments from the public on the proposed law. Is there a motion to open the hearing?
make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. We'll just probably be leaving this open for the next couple of weeks as we get feedback from the public and kind of make refinements to the final draft law. And then we'll have a vote before we go forward with that. And then I guess another public hearing after the final vote. So let's see. I'm going to turn this over to Dove because STR is kind of her baby here. It's all yours.
I think you meant Chris, sorry.
Chris, sorry.
No worries.
I was looking at you.
Very active as well. So thanks, everybody. I'll first just quickly review the process that's gotten us to where we are tonight, and where we're sharing and discussing the details of the draft Nelsonville local law regarding short-term rentals, or STRs. Over the past year or more even, we've heard from residents who've had concerns over STRs. And in November, we undertook a community survey to get more feedback from residents' experiences with short-term rentals in Nelsonville. We also reviewed the recent laws of other local municipalities, Beacon, Cornwall, Irvington, and Montgomery, as well as the Cold Spring Chamber of Commerce report that they put out last February regarding Airbnbs. And then we set to drafting this bill. So we now are in the process, look forward to getting the public's input on the proposed law. Like Mike said, we plan to have a few meetings before editing further. And we, I'll now give a quick summary of what's in the bill and then open it up to public discussion. We really want to hear from everyone. So the intent of the law is to ensure safety, to protect the character and quality of life in our community, and to preserve the availability of long-term rental housing. The local law will require that folks apply for an STR permit and have the unit pass inspection to become an STR. It may only exist in improved residential units, including 1 family, 2 family, 3 family, and accessory apartments. So no vehicles, sheds, trailers, rec rooms, campers, garages, tents, or other temporary structures. The number of units will begin initially at 5% of our residential housing stock, which currently would equal 12 out of our 234 taxable residential properties. The number of days owners must reside in Nelsonville per year would be 185 days. The number of days units may be rented out would be 100 per year. For off-street parking, we would require that they provide at least 1 off-street parking space on property. Guests must follow all village codes, including noise and other quality of life ordinances. Must provide emergency contact info if the owner designee or the designee, who must be within 30-minute drive in case issues arise. Maximum occupancy would follow the County Department of Health and applicable fire and building codes for the number of bedrooms. Additionally, no more than 2 adults per bedroom. No parties or events permitted. The registration process would have an application, which must include the proof of general liability insurance of not less than $500,000 per occurrence, the identity of title owners of the property, proof the owners occupy the property as their primary residence, emergency contact information of owners and designees, and the total number of rooms proposed for short-term rental use. Inspections would be required at the application and annually on renewal. And residences must be in compliance with village code and fire, state, building, and electrical codes. For enforcement, there would be, for first violation of this law or related codes, a violation or a fine of $250, 500 at the second, and 750 at the third, as well as forfeiture of the permit for a 3-year period. Every 10 days, a violation continues after an order to remedy would require additional fees. Or fines, rather. The fees structure to register an STR unit would be an initial fee of $250. An annual renewal of registration would be $150. If a resident's failed inspection, the first re-inspection would be free, but the second or further re-inspections would be at a $50 fee. And I want to thank our building inspector for looking over the law as well and giving his input, as well as all of our board members. And now we would all love to hear more from the community. Your feedback.
Bill Bajarski, the building inspector, is on the call. So if you have any direct questions for him as well, he's here to answer. So we'll open it up to the public now. If you can unmute yourself, if you'd like to make a comment or a statement or anything on the law that's proposed, just identify who you are and where you live and go right ahead.
Tom Corliss raised his hand.
Let's see, where is he? I'm just gonna unmute all. People should be able to unmute themselves. I know Tom's technologically challenged, so let's see. There
I
he
was
is.
waiting for you, Mayor Mike.
Oh, go right ahead. I told everyone, speak out, go for it.
No, I wanted to be recognized, sir.
I recognize you, Tom Corliss. Former Mayor Corliss, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Maybe I'll just go with maybe a couple housekeeping things rather than getting into the meat of this whole thing.
Yep.
Page 9 and 10. And it's probably just, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Page 9 and 10, and it may be just be verbiage, and I know when I write things, I always know what they mean, but sometimes somebody else doesn't. Letter D, sorry, I don't have my glasses on. Registration as a unit is for a term of 1 year. You got that?
yeah.
Yes, you do. The village office will send an expiration notice to the owners
And address.
and address on record. And address on record. So I'm assuming that should be possibly at the address on record.
Yeah, definitely. We'll make a note of that. I mean, that sounds like it came from another code where they're,
And it's just a matter of the way it reads.
yep. And this has gone through numerous
Okay, and
lawyer.
yeah, I get it. I typed plenty of things myself and they always seem to read perfectly. So, and page 10, under A, violations.
Yep,
I don't know, it seems to re-speak itself. Violates any other requirement of this article shall be a violation. I think we're already talking about violations. It kind of doesn't really like,
let's see.
doesn't read perfect.
I think I can't find exactly where you're saying, but I think it's supposed to be if there's a violation of this specific code, Article 9, or any related codes in our.
It's on the, it's under A, it's the third line down, but if you start from violations and read through it, just again, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It just doesn't.
Any person who rents out or offers to rent out premises located in the village as a short-term rental unit without first registering it in accordance with this article, or who violates any other requirement of this article shall be a violation. Yeah, it's clunky.
Redundant.
Yep, thank you.
And the second lineup, and maybe Bill can jump on this, the Village Court or New York State Supreme Court. I don't know how they're getting involved already. I'm assuming anything can go anywhere, whether it be a change of venue or conflict of interest. So I don't know how we got to the State Supreme Court so quickly.
Yeah.
Well, we'll thank our lawyer for that. But I presume that to be if it failed in the village court for some reason, the presumption that it would go to state level.
But it has to start at the Village Court, so I don't know why we're jumping so far ahead. That's all.
Agreed.
That's, yeah, that's, I don't want to blame the attorney, but we'll leave it at that.
Go ahead, you're paying them, you can blame them.
Anything else? I know you don't want to jump in.
I got some,
Go ahead.
I spoke over you, Mike.
No, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Okay. All that stuff aside, looking at the meat of this, it seems like the percentage is a little low. I mean, we're at 12. I mean, that's not even, or 12 with the 5%. That's not even one per block.
Mhm.
And with the 100 days, again, that's less than a third. Doesn't even cover every weekend.
Yeah.
At that point. So if someone were to want to rent their rental out for just weekends, you don't even get to every weekend, let alone put in 1 week in May or June for a high school graduation or maybe a funeral. And there's tons of reasons why these things are rented. So I think that's on the low side. I looked at some of the other ones. Some of the other ones didn't have any restrictions that are on your website. I looked at other ones in other towns and villages. Again, there was no restrictions. I don't think 180 is unreasonable. 10% probably is not unreasonable either. I think at your last workshop, you were in the 12-14 range, and I think you said that really hasn't changed pre-COVID, with COVID. I think we're in the same area, if I'm not mistaken, if I understood what you were saying, Chris. And Chris, thank you very much for putting your time and effort into this. I get it.
Thank you.
I mean, the percentage we based on housing stock, right, Chris?
Right, so we have 234 taxable residential properties currently. So we wanted to start on the low side and kind of see where folks were at with it rather than starting too high. Hear you that maybe 5% might be low. That gets us to 12. Some of the other kind of numbers that we could look at, 7.5% would be 17 units, or rounded up to 18 units, 10%, obviously 23 units. And it does kind of get to our consideration of how many does that kind of crop up per street, and does that become too many without having to go through the difficult process of putting limits on how many units are allowed per street. We'd rather not do that unless we hear from others that they prefer that. But I hear your concern that it might be too low, and also the 100 days. I wrote down maybe possibly 180.
Still less than half.
Still less than half the days.
Yeah, 180 is still less than half, but not by much. But yeah, I think the 5% is if we were only in the 12 and 14 range before, is the 10% gonna, and that fits within the 5, is the 10% unreasonable? No, I don't think so. I'll touch on your snow removal issue. For Division Street, do you want 4 on Division Street? Maybe not. Again, along with that, the owner occupancy, that ties into that a little bit, along with the off-street parking. I'm thinking about doing it. I don't want to be in the same house with somebody that I'm renting to. And I'm sure if we look around who's on the call, I think most of us have used an Airbnb somewhere along the line or some sort of one. Do you really want to be with your renters at the time? It's kind of uncomfortable sharing a wall. And again, now you're taking away that parking spot that you're trying to do. You're trying to make sure they have a parking spot, but you want the owner to be there at the same time.
Well, actually, I just want to
Kind
clarify.
of seems
we're not requiring
contradictory at
that
some point.
It would be on premise.
Say that again, Chris?
Oh, I'm sorry, I just wanted to clarify that the current bill would not require owners to be on premise. They would just need to be, an owner or a designee would need to be within a 30-minute drive to take care of any issues. But they would definitely not.
The owner occupied part
Okay.
comes in that to kind of stop people buying investment properties where they're, absentee landlords and it's purely being used as a hotel. Because, that points to all the issues that you brought up just now and, character of neighborhoods and all that stuff. So is that clear?
Yeah, that was one of my other things. That there was, and it was kind of confusing. Owner occupied, but within 30 minutes. So that really didn't kind of jive with itself.
Yep.
When I was looking at it, and matter of fact, disregard that. I was thinking of contiguous counties might be better off. I think that puts everybody within an hour for the most part, whether they're in Dutchess, within New York State, Dutchess, Westchester, Rockland, and Orange, they all connect to us. That puts everybody within an hour. My concern is that we're trying to make the landlord the police, and to an extent they need to be. I get that. I understand that. But we're talking about garbage cans and noise, this, that, and the other thing. And we'll go back to if you see something, say something. We need to do that as neighbors every day, not just for rental units. So when we're talking about parking in front of somebody's driveway and we're like making laws on top of laws, where do we stop? There's 4 or 5 different things within here that speak about noise or parties or this, that, or the other thing. I mean, that's something that we should be dealing with every day as a community and neighbors. That if one of our neighbors is causing a problem, you call the police. That's what they're there for. They're there 24/7. It doesn't have to wait for the building inspector or the village board to hear about it. If there's a problem, if your house is on fire, you don't wait to the village board meeting. Mm-hmm. You call the fire department. Let's I think it's unfair to throw these things on not only on you guys, but the homeowner as well. And we start getting into defining different sections of law and penal law, this, that, and the other thing. I think the onus is on the person renting the place as well as the owner, that if you're violating any law, local, state, federal, whatever it is, I think when you start nitpicking which laws we want, I didn't violate that one, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think that the law isn't necessarily duplicative, but it's pointing out what this local law creates a new section of code specific to STRs, but it does spell out, or I guess emphasize, where we already have laws that need to be followed, such as the noise ordinances and garbage removal, etc. Just making it clear what's expected of owners, but not necessarily making them the police. Although, and to your point, yeah, if you see something, call the police first. Don't wait till we're in the office to give us a call. And that's how the primary responsibilities will be, as it normally would be in the community.
I there was, is there, I know there wasn't, is there a law that says anything in the village of Nelsonville about when and how to take out your garbage?
There isn't,
I don't believe there's one that says when did,
maybe
There's
not
a-
when, but that you have to.
Or when they can bring your cans back in? So I think that's where you start crossing some lines where if I live there, I could do whatever I want.
yeah.
But if it's an Airbnb, it's different.
And-
And I'm fine with it. But let's make it, I think it should be a blanket thing and pass two laws at the same time, maybe.
Yeah. And I get what you're saying, there are parts of this, like when it comes to gatherings and parties, that basically are unenforceable from a village board perspective. There are things that, are only in the purview of the police department. I think the more important thing that's coming out here is that, we're holding either a designee or the owner needs to be somewhere that they can be contacted in case there's an issue with the unit. That was one of the big things that came out in the Cold Spring meeting that we went to last year. The police would be called for large parties or for loud Airbnb parties going on, and they were unable to get a hold of an owner. So there's nobody to hold responsible because there's nobody that can be located.
Well, that's not accurate, because the people that are causing the problem are the responsible ones. They're the ones that should be violated.
But when it goes on
To
week
continue-
after week and it continues to happen, eventually the owner of the building is going to be the one that has to be responsible for kind of policing their own property.
Yes, and I give me 1 second, Mayor. And again, I think that might be a matter of how it's worded. And yes, is that something that should come back to the owner at some point? Yes, I guess it is. But I think it's I don't want to sit here and take up all of your time, but I think it's ultimately up to the residents to report issues that are happening when they're happening.
Definitely.
So the actual person that's doing the violation is held responsible.
Yeah.
If the homeowner or the landlord, whatever we want to define this under this law, doesn't do their due diligence to prevent or terminate those issues, and it's a regular thing, whole nother story. But I think you got to take it on a case by case situation. If you're having a short-term rental where every weekend somehow there's a problem at that place, well, that's on the owner.
Yep.
But eventually, but at the time when it's happening, it's got to be on the people that are occupying it.
Yeah.
Thank you. These were really thoughtful suggestions. Thanks, Tom.
Randolph School, I believe you have your hands up.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Josh. This is Jenny. I'm sorry, I couldn't figure out how to change my name here on the screen.
No problem.
But yeah, it's nice to be a part of this conversation and have the opportunity to do so. And we've had some experience on both sides of the Airbnb machine, here, and we've certainly learned some things that hopefully might lend themselves to this process. One, we share the concern of zombie communities, right? This idea of people looking for investment properties, buying up weekend homes, and just sucking away the resources of the humans and the people that live in the community, making it untenable for people to live. We worry about that. We don't want to see that happen, and we feel really fortunate to be raising our kids in this community, and we plan to do that for some time. The other side is one, I will say that from experience, there are ways and kind of precedent built into that system where, based on how you list or how you advertise, or the ways in which Airbnb and other similar things allow you to be discerning about who you accept as guests, for instance, can be a pretty powerful tool in dissuading people who might have a different interest or interest in using your home in ways that you're not comfortable with. We, for instance, have gotten, some years ago, requests from college students and West Point cadets who want a weekend away. And we know what that means. And with all due respect, there are other places that they can go. But then we have families that might be, coming up. First of all, it's been some time since anyone's been in this house, let's be real. But they might be coming up to have a weekend away, and they've got young children as well. And we have a house that's well situated for young kids. And we see that as an opportunity, someone who's not coming to party, someone who is coming to be respectful and make good use of the home that we love. The other important point about our community is that one thing that we love about it is how far away it is from both of our families. With that in mind, it also is important that when our families come to visit, that we acknowledge that there is not a lot of great options for places for them to stay. And fortunately, and there's some people who are here on this call who some of our relatives have rented, at their homes. And some of them have beautiful properties right through the woods here from us. And it just feels like an incredible way for our family that lives at a great distance to be welcomed into our community and get a sense for it, including who our neighbors are and what type of town this is. So there are some important opportunities for the community at large that we see, and certainly, benefited from, like I said, on both sides. And earlier, the question of, this 5% being 12, there's not that many people here. My concern is that putting a limit like that is going to be something that prevents the circumstance that, like I said, we've had, where our families had a positive experience coming to our community and seeing how beautiful and vibrant our neighborhoods are. There are ways, and we do support ways, to put some restrictions and controls on how these properties are used. And that is within enforcing laws that also already exist. And it is complicated because my first reaction also was that, the people who are here are the ones responsible to the authorities in that moment, but we also are responsible to our community. And so it's also on us as owners to, like I said, be discerning about who we rent to. So I hope some of that is helpful in this process as you think about how to enter into this pretty new thing.
Definitely. Thank you. Josh and Jenny, what were your last names and just where were you guys residing?
Kaplan, and we're down at the end of Harmill Drive.
Gotcha. Perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else?
I can chime in. Can't figure out the raise hand function on Zoom.
No.
I had to raise my hand.
I hear Kathleen and I hear Rudy.
Technically,
I don't have the raise hand function, but Rudy, if you want to go first, that's fine too.
Sonia.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sonia, and this is Rudolph, Sonia Rizariski and Rudolph Van Domela, and we live at 17 Half Moon Ridge behind Haldane. We have a lot of parties. We throw a lot of parties. Even outside of Airbnb, we have parties. We have New Year's Eve parties. We have pool parties. Like, we have 2 college-age boys. When I read the restrictions, I mean, I assumed that the restrictions would be that owners have to be on premises. These are things that I've heard before, and we are always on premises. So I wasn't too worried. But I feel like, as one of the only houses, like out of all 4 available listings right now, 3 of them are ours. We do a lot of Airbnb. We have like 300 5-star ratings. We're super hosts. We rent to like really lovely families. We've never had a bad experience. If we had had a bad experience, we wouldn't do it. They're all like, some of them are repeat customers. They come every year. they're nice. They're nice people. I'm not sure where the problem is. We received a letter from Bill, the building inspector, and it said that we had several complaints against us. But when I asked Mindy to see the complaints, because of course I'm concerned about that, I'm careful to be a really good neighbor. And I wanted to know, but Mindy said there were no complaints against us. So I just would like to know what the catalyst is for this. I guess maybe I should have been at more meetings. I'm really sorry I wasn't. I would like to know why such draconian measures. Is it something that we've done? It feels very personal because it's basically us. We're the party house. I also take issue, sorry, I'm nervous. I take issue with the survey. This Survey Monkey survey, it's an anonymous survey. Anybody can do it. You don't have to live in Nelsonville. You can do it several times. You can drive to Starbucks and do it again. It's not a great way to base your legislation on. It really should be more based on documented complaints. And to my knowledge, we have no documented complaints. We haven't had police called on us. You know, we live on a private road. We have 5 acres. I want to make sure that I'm a really good neighbor. I don't want to bother anybody, but you know, we're used to living a particular lifestyle and we like what we do. It's really nice for us. I'm concerned that we won't have the same freedom going forward to do, you know, to live our lives basically the way we're used to doing that. It feels restrictive. Yeah, I'm not very happy about it.
You want to talk to that?
Sure. You mentioned a couple of things, and thank you so much. Nice to meet you guys finally in person. Person-ish. So this is, like I mentioned before I began speaking, we actually have had folks talk to us about bad experiences that or concerns that they were having with short-term rentals in the village within the past year, maybe probably even more at this point. And this law was absolutely not targeted toward any individual or family or residents in the community. Whatever issues you were talking about with the building inspector are your private thing, and we're not part of this bill. To your point of feeling restricted, again, I think you might have mentioned that folks have to be on premise. That is not part of the bill. I just want to make sure everybody's clear about that. The only thing, and maybe we need to just make sure the language is more clear, but the one part of the bill that requires the owner be a full-time resident of the community, but not that they must be on premises. So just want to make sure, because I know that would be very different for a lot of hosts who want to go away for the week and rent out their property or have other arrangements that they're using. Are there any particular points of the bill that feel restrictive to you?
Yeah. Do you want to talk?
Yeah, I can say something.
Yeah.
I'm not a very eloquent speaker either, but my head is full
What do you mean either?
Well, you wrote a whole letter, so
I did. I will submit my letter. It felt too
it
formal.
has, yeah. I mean, my head is full of a lot of thoughts about this. I hope you can understand that this feels personal. We are right now, and I've been on top of this ever since Airbnb was first mentioned in the village meetings, which is a few years back. It has been mentioned for a while. Our Airstream that we have on Airbnb has been mentioned before, a few years back. So ever since then, I've been watching what's going on in Nelsonville with Airbnb. I've been keeping my ears open for any complaints. there hasn't been any, according to Mindy, there hasn't certainly not been any complaints about our operation, about our house, about our parties, or I've had some way back 5-6 years ago when we had our first party here. It was a little bit loud. Joe Plumber, Kathy Plumber, I had to call them and I had to ask them. It's like, was it too loud? Was it, because it was loud. And I know that some of you can hear it probably around Secor Street. Not as loud as a motorcycle or a car going by, but you can hear maybe there's some music going on at the other side of the woods. It's nothing that would generate a noise complaint. But I was concerned about the plumber, so I called them. And they were like, yeah, it was a little bit loud. And I was like, okay, so we changed the rules. Again, like Sonia said, we want to make sure we are good neighbors, especially to the neighbors that are affected by, or maybe affected by, our hosting Airbnbs. Aside from the plumbers, there's really nobody that can lodge a complaint or file a complaint against it, because nobody can see what we do here. We're on a private property, we're on a private road. So that's as far as the complaints go. Now, we got this alarming letter from Bill saying that there were several complaints. He did not want to tell me what they were specifically or who they were from, maybe understandable. But we're still concerned. I asked Mindy, no complaints. So that's a little bit strange, but okay, there may be some people talking about us. Apparently there are some people talking about us. There's some gossip going around. There's one of the comments on the survey was like, negative experience. I'm not personally affected, but I have heard many stories about the party house by Haldane. I guess that's us. And I wanted to address some of these. I'm assuming, even though the survey, I don't think it should really be considered in legislation, since it's all anonymous. And like Sonia said, anybody can fill this out as many times as they want, as long as they have a different IP address. There are some things, and most of the things in there are really just mostly what it comes down to is fear of strangers. People don't like strangers. They're not welcoming to visitors. They just want familiarity, and they want to see the same faces next door, and hopefully they are nice people. Maybe not. We lived in Cold Spring Village for 2 years. We had horrible neighbors. I wish they were Airbnb people, so they would have left after the weekend, but they stuck with us for 2 years, and it was horrible. So there's that side too. Also Airbnb guests, they're vetted. They have reviews. You can see.
You can decline them.
You can decline them. It is not a public service. We do not have to take anybody. It's not like a hotel where total strangers can come in. A hotel can, you can be anybody. Be a child molester or a murderer. You can check into a hotel and hang out for as long as you want. Airbnb, it doesn't work like that. There's reviews, and we've actually had over 600 reviews, 600 stays, and we've never had a problem. So I don't know that there are any problems. If all these people that have negative experiences with Airbnb in this survey, I'm assuming that some of them live in Nelsonville actually, they have to be maybe from, Randolph School. You were listing Airbnb. I'm not sure. Maybe you can tell me if you had any negative experiences. Or
we never
No.
did. We had great experiences.
Never.
And our families had great experiences staying with you guys. So again, thank you for your ambassadorship.
And I might add that we don't have a hotel here. There's
No, we don't.
The other options in Nelsonville, the other option is to send people who would stay here to Fishkill, and they will go eat at Chipotle rather at Juanita's.
Right.
It actually benefits our community to keep the people here. And often they're related to our neighbors, and we are always here.
And I think that's the ultimate goal, is to, we're not trying to ban this in any way. We're just trying to get a handle on it before it gets to a level where it's not.
It's good to look ahead.
Affect us more than
If this law passes the way it's drafted right here, then this is going to be very restrictive to us. And
And Rudy, I know we've had at least 2 or 3 discussions, face to face on this.
yes,
That's why we're having this meeting.
yeah,
is-
yeah.
Is
No,
to
and
get
I'm
the
happy.
input and
happy.
to make the changes. That
I'm
you
happy
guys
to
are
have this
looking for.
meeting, and I'm happy to also share our experience, which I think is important and informative in this whole process, because we are, yes, I want to say we are the most prolific Airbnb hosts in Nelsonville, if not the only ones. At the moment, yes, there's only one other person, it's on Main Street, 272 Main Street. I don't know if they are generating a lot of complaints. I don't know. Like, are there actually complaints? Has the police ever been called to any Airbnb? Is there any real reason to enact legislation that's actually more stringent than New York State's legislation or many of the other towns' legislation? That, New York City may have some problems. In New York City and other places too, the legislation does not pertain to owner-occupied dwellings, for one. This is already more restrictive because you say you don't have to be there. Well, we like to be here when we have guests. These are our guests, and we interact with them. Sometimes we entertain them. We like to show them around. Sometimes we share a meal with them. And we actually love doing all that. So this is a very nice.
Take them hiking.
We take them hiking, we show them around. We love to show them this beautiful place that we live in. And now, after this law is suggesting that this all has to be regulated,
How can
with
you rent a giant house on Airbnb and not allow a party?
parties. We have parties. Like, how can you say that we can't have parties?
There are noise
What's a
regulations.
party? What constitutes a
All right,
party?
is
How are
there-
you going to regulate
Is
our
there
parties?
a party police that you're gonna hire, or
And
what's
that speaks to my point earlier, Rudy, if some of this being unenforceable and things that
Right.
we do need to look at.
Yeah, no, I think we need to take a hard look at this.
Could we also hear from Bill, from the building inspector? Because
Yep.
I don't know if there are New York occupancy laws that just as a village to protect ourselves, we have to be mindful of. Did that have something to do with the preparation of,
Bill, you're here still, correct? Let's see.
you're muted.
You should mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Rudy and I have spoken at length, and as I explained to him, and he's absolutely correct. He would not find any written complaints from people. But as we all know, that when it's pointed out to the village that there is a violation of law, I have to look into it and deal with it appropriately. Okay, and many people have come in and complained. People have complained to the board members, and that's what triggered it. Initially. So just to clarify that, I don't go in after anybody personally. It's not my style. Anybody that knows me knows
But
that.
there have been complaints about us.
Yes, people have said they are complaining about your operation at your property. I mentioned you to you.
Yeah. But what are the complaints? Like, I don't understand what the complaints
How
are.
can-
I'm sorry, but if you could just answer the question I asked, that would be helpful
Go
too,
ahead, shoot.
about the occupancy. Because I think that gets to the
Well,
party.
the village law covers many different things. Under zoning, okay, these areas are either 1, 2, or 3 family houses, properties in the residence. One residence, not outside, not in an outbuilding, not above a accessory building. That's one of the initial problems. So that's why it's in violation.
Which is,
I'm sorry, sorry to interrupt. I think what Deb was asking is what kind of Board of Health regulations would kind of determine a party happening?
Well, a
And
party.
the number, the occupancy, the allowable occupancy per home.
It's a series of things. Again, Rudy and I have spoken to this several times at his property, and what happens is that if you're using, say what we use, he's using his residence, okay, and the septic system is designed for the amount of bedrooms in that residence, then that's not a problem. Okay. However, under health code, if we now use, and I don't want to get into specifics because that's really between myself and those residents, but the thing is there, if it's in another building on the property or another facility, then we have to deal with water and sewer. Okay, or septic, of course, in Nelsonville. So those are the things that start rolling into to where parties and people and everything comes together. It's, as they say, no one single grain makes a beach. Okay, what happens is there's a series of things, and again, I was explaining this to the owners there, where the problems have become from. And I don't think it's really, I should be going over what I'm doing with that, with them at this point. That's between us and them, and I thought we're pretty much on our way to a resolution. But
Oh, sorry, if I wasn't clear. I'm asking you because I'm interested in future
party
drafts
aspect.
of this legislation, and not to make it personal to any family
Right.
in Nelsonville, but just, does the party issue come to like safety fire code? Is it a question of New York Fire Code of how many people can be in a building? I'm just wondering what the legal.
Yeah, Bill, if I have a 3-bedroom home, what technically by New York state law, what is the maximum amount of people I'm allowed on that property or in that
Yeah.
property?
Yeah.
For the B&B aspect, 6 people, 2 per bedroom.
Out of curiosity, when I think of party,
Parties.
yeah, when I think of party, I think of like, when I think of concerning parties, I think of like loud, boisterous, what like in the movies. And I think that is that kind of what we're talking about with the party concern, is more like the noise violation component? Is that because party, like gatherings of any sort,
I
like a
guess I'm
barbecue
more
at your house?
interested in understanding the legality of how many people could be on a property and not violate some kind of fire or safety code. Like in our work building, you know, each room says this maximum capacity of people at any one time is X amount. So that's just what I'm wondering.
Okay, I think to just clarify, this is not directed at the normal use of a residence. And having a Christmas party, you know, or Halloween party, or 4th of July party, that's not, I don't think it's directed at that. I think it's
Which
directed.
type of parties are illegal then?
What's that?
Which
Well,
type, which type of parties are illegal?
Okay, again, I'm not sure if the word party is illegal. It's in conjunction with its use. Okay, if you rent out your trailer and put 14, if you rent out your trailer and put 14 people in there and have a party outside with another 50 or 60, that's when it would become concerns of the building department, because now we have fire safety and everything else.
That's not going to happen.
Right, but I'm just saying, the problem is that there's, I don't know how to answer, because I'm really not sure what context we're asking the word party.
Well, there is a in the proposal legislation, there it just says no parties or events. That's all it says. So our
And
parties,
Rudy, I mean, to get back to my original comment on that, that is a part of this that we need to look at
okay, all right. So
much more closely in that.
Yeah. I'll let that.
I think what we're proving here is that it is almost unenforceable from a village standpoint. So
I would say, as is a lot of the other things too, because now, you know, what is like technically for like I told you before, Mike, when we had a private conversation, I told you that I love people.
Yeah.
Right. I love any kind of, and most people are good. I've met thousands in my life, and I find them interesting, and I like to interact with them. And to me, the more the merrier. And I think the testament to that is that we do have not just parties for other people. We have we've had summer, almost every year we have a New Year's party. We have summer parties by the pool. We love congregating people, talking. This is a great community too. There's a lot of really nice and good people in this community, and these parties are big. So I'd hate to think that this party is illegal, and I don't think that when we have a Christmas party, I don't think that's illegal. That would be a ridiculous notion. So
Can I just address this a little bit more, and then I think we should go on and hear from some more folks. In the intent of the bill is to go along with what the approvable number of occupants are for an STR, which is based on the number, the health regulations of permitted occupants per your normal residential home. So if you have a home that's 3-bedroom and you have 6 people come and they have a party, that's not unallowable. The law is drafted to say, the section is parties or events. No parties or events shall be permitted. The registration of the unit may be revoked if the renters or guests number in excess of the permitted number of persons in the unit as governed by the applicable occupancy laws of the state of New York. The short-term rental unit shall not be rented for any other purpose, commercial or otherwise, not expressly permitted under this article, such as concerts or weddings. If you normally have a Christmas party, we love having folks too, and it gets big, and that's your normal residential use of your property. We're not saying you can't have that party. As a Airbnb, if you're hosting a concert or a wedding, that is the intent of this, of the
So
laws of the bill.
I have a friend or my niece who wants to get married and they want to use our 5-acre property because we have a big lawn and they want to put up a tent. I have to come to you for permission.
Are you going to be renting out your home to do that?
The home will not be rented for a large amount of people, no. But there may
And
be.
that's your private business. But if the intent is to make money off of hosting a commercial event, then that would be restricted under this law.
Okay,
But I'm happy to talk to you more about it. We're all happy to talk to you more about it.
Yeah.
I want to keep moving on.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I wanted to clear that up for folks.
Yeah, I just, I don't know, it feels like we're one of the only people here who are really affected by this law, so. But yeah, let anybody else speak, it's fine. We can talk about it.
Thank you very much for sharing, guys.
Let's see, Mary Lou, you have your hand up, or Kathleen had yours up before Rudy began?
Either one, whoever, I don't know.
Mary Lou, you
Yeah.
speak, go right ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to thank you guys for all the work you did on this. I think you did a great job.
Oh,
Mary Lou,
Mary Lou,
muted.
I think you hit your space bar and went to mute.
Okay. You got me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. I wanted to thank you for doing the great job you did on this. My biggest complaint is I think you should charge more for the registration because most of these, well, I know like the ones next to me, they're making more than that in a weekend. So they can certainly afford to pay the registration fee. My biggest concern is the fact that next to me, I'm at 270 Main Street. And anybody that knows our house can see how close the house next door to us is. It's like maybe an inch that separates us. And these people that own that house are not residents of Nelsonville or Cold Spring. They live in Westchester. They have never lived in the house. It's a 2-family house. The downstairs is empty. The upstairs is what they rent out. Every weekend, there's somebody there renting it. And one of the worst cases was one weekend, the person was drunk, inebriated, whichever you want to say. And my daughter had to show them where they were staying as a Airbnb because they couldn't remember. But other than that, I like what you've done with this whole thing. And if like these other people that were talking, they're in the woods, they're fine. That doesn't bother me either. It's the fact that we're here on Main Street and it's a neighborhood. And when you have people coming in that are strangers every weekend, it's not a neighborhood anymore. And there's too many houses right along Main Street that are more than one family. I mean, if I didn't have my kids living here, I could rent out my 2 apartments. But most of us that have lived here all our lives, we want to keep our neighborhoods and not have strangers. I'm not afraid of strangers. It's just that it's nice to know the people that are next to you. You can, if you have a problem, you know who your neighbor is, and you can talk to them. You can ask them for help. They can ask you for help. It's the way we were all brought up here. And I just don't like to see our little village change. And that's all I got to say.
Thank you.
How about taking pictures of naked girls?
I don't know what that was about, but
Don't even listen to it. You know who's sitting next to me.
all right. Kathleen, you had something you wanted to add?
Yeah, so I'm Kathleen Maloney. For those of you who don't know me, I'm actually one of the current candidates for one of the open trustee seats. And I just wanted to say, first of all, I see this issue from both sides. So for full disclosure, my husband and I own a 2-family home on Harmill Drive. And we have done short-term rentals in the past. We've rented to the Shakespeare Festival crew. We've rented to local folks who are, in transitional periods, and we have done some Airbnb. We did it for one summer. We had one stay that I wasn't super fond of, but otherwise kind of no issues. Although we do currently now rent to a long-term tenant, and quite frankly, that's a lot more lucrative and much less of a headache. The other side of the coin is, I'm a mom of a young boy, and I do want to live in the kind of village where he can go play 3 streets over, and I probably know everyone who he's going to bump into. So I see both sides of kind of what's kind of at stake here. I think the vast majority of what's in the bill is pretty good. I think the current board did a good job of kind of pulling together the different concerns in the community and trying to find a good path forward. I think, especially, requiring that a property is the owner's primary residence. That's going to, far and away be such a huge thing for us going forward, because it's going to, prevent situations like what was just described. It's going to prevent our housing stock being bought up by property management companies, which I don't think anybody wants. And I think the idea of having permits is fantastic, because it gives the village some recourse when there is a short-term rental operation that that is not compliant with village code. Permitting is not perfect, but at least there's something that we can do now when there are documented complaints. I think the one issue that really sticks out to me as a bit of a thorny one is the issue of the caps on the permits. And I kind of see this issue as there's kind of 2 issues I have with it. One is that I just think it's going to be really hard to kind of administer a cap of 12 permits in a way that's fair for everybody. I know that number was sort of arrived at because there was 12 active listings sort of at the height of Airbnb in Nelsonville, but I think there's a lot of us that like to keep the option of Airbnb open, or do so much more casually. So there may be more than those listings. There may be more people that are interested in Airbnb than there may be active listings at any one time. But I think more importantly, I'm not actually sure that the cap will really there won't be anything to be gained from the cap over and above what's already in the bill. So if I interpret the reason for the cap correctly, it's to preserve long-term housing stock and to obviously keep the number of short-term rentals low, and then in turn also, we want to kind of maintain the character and quality of life in the village. Again, I think everything else that's in the bill is going to go a long way to do those things. Like I mentioned before, if you have a multifamily home, it's more lucrative and less of a headache to just offer your space as a long-term rental. Certainly with the cap on the number of days that you can offer your space as a short-term rental. So automatically everyone who has a legal multifamily residence, they're going to be incentivized to offer their property to long-term residents. And I think the number of people that are actually willing to open their kind of primary space to short-term renters is in the minority. Not all of us are as kind of open-hearted as Rudy is. I like my privacy. I don't want people in my space all the time. So I think those situations are going to be pretty rare with those restrictions in place. And then again, the quality of life issues, I think, will be remedied by, or at least we'll have the ability to control them to some degree through the just general permitting process and the ability to revoke permits from folks who are not compliant. So again, generally on board with the spirit of the legislation, but I think we could probably accomplish a lot of what we want to, perhaps with a leaner bill.
Thank you. Is there anyone that we have not heard from yet that would like to speak? If not, I mean, anybody, free for all. Anybody else wants to add here?
Well, I would like to address the issue that Kathleen just mentioned and other people have mentioned as well, which is the depletion of the housing stock by people buying up houses to basically turn them into illegal hotels. So these Airbnb as a platform and VRBO and HomeAway, which are I think the three main ones, they've been around for a good 10 years. If this was actually going to happen, if there was a danger or a possibility of that happening, then that would have already happened. And the fact that it hasn't is a simple function of mathematics, where it just does not pay to buy a house and be an absentee landlord and do short-term rentals with everything that comes with it, is servicing the unit. Of course, there's a cleaning turnover process. The revenue is just not there to finance a house that is, even a small village home now is $400,000. A $400,000 home is not going to get you the kind of money from short-term rentals that allows you to finance it, let alone make a profit. I think also that there are a number of rental properties in the village, people that rent on a permanent basis. I don't see that there, I read one comment in the negative experiences where somebody mentioned that a long-term tenant had been evicted in order to make room for short-term rentals. I don't know where that is. I would be very surprised if that's actually here in Nelsonville. I can see it maybe in New York City. But here, I'm in real estate. I'm a real estate agent now. I see nobody come in looking for Airbnb properties to exploit as Airbnbs. So I think that's a totally irrational concern because it's not happening. If it was going to happen, it would have already happened. So I don't know why that keeps coming up. It's not happening anywhere. Around here at least. I have other things. This has been on my mind for a while. You know, I actually lose sleep over this. The fact that there is a possibility that you have the power to legislate and restrict, basically restrict our lifestyle, which is very concerning to me. Especially since we try to be good neighbors, and I think we have been good neighbors. And Bill, I know that you say that people have complained to you, and I believe you, that people have complained to you, not verbally have complained. Certainly none of my neighbors. I know that for a fact, that none of my neighbors have complained to you. So this could be someone who just doesn't like what we do, you know, and says, oh yeah, he has a trailer that's not allowed on the village code, and why don't you go check it out? And yeah, no, maybe that's true. I've had that trailer for almost 6 years now. People are they're thrilled. Everybody that stays there, they're thrilled to have this unique experience. They can camp in the woods at the base of Bull Hill. They can hike. They can walk the village. Most people walk. They come from on the train. They're usually couples. They have a romantic weekend getaway. And I'm very happy to be able to provide that to them. It would be a real shame if that would be outlawed just because those are the rules that are now being enacted or legislated. It would be very unfortunate. I lose sleep over that. So I don't know if anybody else loses sleep over this. There's a lot of things mentioned about safety. I can't imagine anybody really feeling unsafe. We have a sheriff station right in the middle of Nelsonville. There's a sheriff, they're always there. I don't know of any incidents. And again, all of our Airbnb guests, they've all been good people. I don't think anybody should feel unsafe or threatened by strangers. I guess I'm digressing, but there's a lot of things. So,
And Rudy, you know,
comment?
Rudy, we've had, like I said, 2 or 3 face-to-face conversations, and
yes,
I'm more than willing to sit down again. And I know Bill is. And this was, again, this is the first kind of shot at this law that we're kind of reviewing. And there'll definitely be at least one other, probably more chances to.
I'm happy to be involved and share my experience and to maybe shed some light of some of the unknowns or the people that don't have the experience that we have.
Also, if we knew what the complaints against us were, we would take them into account and remedy what we can. Like, it's not very useful to not know. Somebody says we're too loud, I'd like to know, or maybe they just, I don't know, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It would be useful to know. How do we be better neighbors? Anyway, we would like to be good neighbors.
And also there is a noise ordinance. It's on the books. If there's noise, I called around also a little bit. I called because in the on the website, with the proposed legislation, there's a couple of supporting documents. I guess one of them is the anonymous survey. And then the other one is some other legislations that other communities have enacted. Mm-hmm. I went and because there's Montgomery and Beacon, Cornwall, and what's the other one? I don't have it on top of me. Chris, you know, but anyway,
Which one?
Montgomery, Beacon, Cornwall, and
Irvington.
Irvington, correct. So,
but also, just for the record, Cold Spring is in the similar state as
right.
we are,
right.
and drafting similar legislation.
Right. But I mean, yes, it's true. Cold Spring is our neighbors, but I'm very happy that we are not Cold Spring. I'm proud to be and happy to be a Nelsonvillian, as I like to call us.
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
Very quick. Then you could go back, Rudy. I just want to say real quick. I wanted to address Kathleen's specific remark about the cap on the number of units. I wanted to just note, I think that cap is a good idea. I realize that it may be an inconvenience for some, but I think that that's the most, based on my own reading of the proposed law, which I think is excellent. That's the most enforceable part of the law. The cap on the number of units that can be rented out as Airbnbs, I think is the most enforceable amongst the provisions of the law. It may be pretty hard to ensure that people comply with the number of days they're allowed to rent, or even whether they're living on the premises. But I'm just noting what Mary Lou said. You know, I live next to that Airbnb as well. And you know, it's full time all the time. And you know, that would be easily enforced. Like if they don't have a permit, they can't do that. But it would be very hard, I think, for all of us. We literally have to write down, we actually do sometimes note the license plates coming in and out, because it's during COVID, it's a little bit concerning at times. But but yeah, that's really hard to enforce. But if there's a limit on the actual number of total Airbnbs, I think that's going to be a lot easier for the village to enforce. So anyway, you can go back, Rudy. I just wanted to quickly insert that.
Okay, yeah.
Rudy, is there one or two more points that you just want to hit upon, and then I just want to give someone else an opportunity?
Yeah, no, I mean, anybody, I just jumped in there because it was kind of quiet. Nobody said anything.
Yep.
So I figured, you know, I'll divulge some more of my research, but anybody wants to talk, please go ahead.
No, and I encourage both you and Sonia to definitely submit a, you know, coherent, you know, well thought out letter if you want, just laying out all the points that you're concerned about, that we'll review literally one bullet point at a time.
The coherent part is what I've been struggling with.
You never have an issue with that. I'll tell you that. You make your point very clear.
But I want to just
Mike,
because
I
I have
think Maria has her hand raised and Mary Lou also has her
Oh,
hand.
okay. So yeah, I'll see.
Yeah.
I'll
So
mute myself.
go, Maria. Would you, if you can unmute, go for it.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted. Good evening, everyone. Great meeting. My name is Maria Zinovich. Just like Kathleen, I'm also a candidate for an open trustee seat. So great to see everyone and good to see some new faces. My point is kind of to piggyback on what Kathleen and Heidi were saying. My idea was perhaps we could build in some kind of increase into how many rentals we allow. Let's say there should be an annual or biannual or whatever the period of time that there would be some kind of automatic increase, because somebody did mention that we want to be able to allow people to Airbnb if they're willing to go through the process and register the unit and do whatever, you know, whatever sort of they see fit to do with their property. However, people who might sort of be late to the game might be at a disadvantage because there would just be no permits left. And right now, obviously, we're not there, and you know, who knows what's going to happen. And perhaps some of our, as Rudy had said, some of our fears might never materialize. Like, you know, nobody's moving out here and buying out properties in bulk, but perhaps there could be a built-in increase so that if somebody ultimately decides to, you know, to venture out into that market, they, you know, they would still be able to do it perhaps with a little bit of a wait.
Thank you. Mary Lou, Tomer, you both have spoken before, so go for it, either or.
I just wanted to point three things out to Rudy. We have a problem with people doing the short-term rentals instead of renting their homes to. There's a lot of young couples here in Phillipstown who have to move out of town when they get married because there is no place for them to rent here. And another point is you thought that maybe somebody was lying about a person that was renting and had to leave because of them doing the Airbnb. Well, that wasn't a lie. That's the house next door to me. The person that was living there on the bottom floor was even disabled, and they made him get out, and he had to actually go live in a motel for a while because he can't go up and down the stairs, and he couldn't find an apartment. So that was not a lie. And I think that was it. I just wanted to say that. And I agree with Kathleen of how, we like to keep our village the way it is. That's it.
Mr. Corliss?
How am I doing with this, Mayor?
You're doing great. I mean,
Thank you.
you got the hang of it.
Let's, comments from Mary Lou, Rudy. Yeah, survey. I don't know what, the only person that's going to answer a survey is the person that wants to answer the survey, whether you're for it or against it. You don't get the middle of the road. So that is what it is. I get it.
I mean, that was really an exercise in trying to get some voices involved in the conversation, given that we're in COVID times and we're stuck behind the computer screen, and it served its purpose.
Absolutely. I get it, Mike. I'm not poo-pooing it by any means. It's just, I didn't even see the survey, so I didn't take it.
Yep.
Whether I saw it, I may not have taken it either. So, but anyway, again, Rudy, he went on for a while. I don't know if anybody timed him, so we should charge him. The bad neighbor thing, he's dead on. You can have a bad neighbor for a weekend or 2 days or a week, and they go away. I might be that bad neighbor. I don't know. I probably am. But when you have one and they don't leave, that's a whole nother story. That they're there forever. And Mary Lou, again, you same point, different street. The neighbors that you're talking about don't exist anymore for the most part. They're new neighbors. They're not who you and I used to know. And I'm not trying to circumvent the chair here by any means, but that's just the fact that Cold Spring and Nelsonville have changed, where we're not the same people. I mean, you scroll across the bottom of the screen and figure out who you've known for more than 5 years. And that's not really a thing anymore. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's not reality that's going to happen. I think the bad neighbor thing is a really serious thing where I'd rather deal with somebody for a couple of days or a week than a month or years. And there's remedies for that, where if you're the owner and you're the bad neighbor, there's not a remedy for that. It just is what it is.
I mean, but what I'm thinking of through all of this, and I take everyone's points to heart in terms of neighborhood character, bad neighbors, good neighbors, all that. What it all comes down to from us on the village side of the fence is that we have to do what's best by the village. And the meeting that I recall where we really started to dive back into this was somebody made the point at one of our public comments that this activity right now is technically illegal by village code. And so how are we able to enforce anything if we're allowing this to happen with no oversight, no control? So this is really an exercise in trying to catch up with the times, with a village code that was written 50 years ago.
For sure.
And to kind of walk the medium line of, too much overreach into people's property and lives, and, just giving the village oversight that's appropriate. And that's what we're here, and we're listening to everybody, and hopefully, we'll go back, we'll discuss it as a board, and we'll take another look at this, and, we'll come back with a different version, different draft, little tweaks to it, and see what people say. That's where we're at.
And absolutely all the right things to do. I think you're taking a right approach. You got to get ahead of it, even though you're behind it. It's like the internet. It travels faster than you can keep up, and you got to do what you can do. I think it's just ratios.
Mm-hmm.
How many people, how many days? I think that's part of the issue. I heard Rudy talk about a party. I think if you're going to start setting up a tent, maybe that's something that falls under the building inspector. Is a tent up right? Or, things like that. I think,
There would definitely, that's a conversation to be had if, what's the delineation between a personal private party and, a for-profit event is, they're two drastically different things.
for
And
sure.
they fall under different purviews.
The safety aspect, if anybody has a problem with that, I don't know what to tell you. If, your doors ain't swinging the right way and smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors and all that stuff, I think that's just foolish on your part and you're doomed to failure. Thank you.
Thank you. We're after 9 p.m. folks. We're here to listen to anybody. If anyone has anything else to say, if not, again, this will be the first of at least, one other, but I'm guessing more than one other public hearing. We're going to leave the hearing open so that we can make changes to this as we go along, and then.
You added one, Mike.
Say it again.
I said you added one. You were only going to have one other. Now you're up to two.
I mean, ideally, we were going to try to get this done in 2, but I think it may, require a little more discussion after that. Again, we just want to give everybody a chance to speak on the issue because it does affect people, and that was made obvious tonight. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to chime in with a comment or?
I'd like to say one more thing. What I'm hearing just from everybody here, it sounds like the only real issue is non-residents having Airbnb. That sounds like Mary Lou's neighbor and I'm not sure the other person who spoke about it, but it sounds like it's just that one house and that they don't live here. We've had Airbnb guests. We live here. It's just when we're away, and it's really helpful income. And like Josh said, it's been really helpful when we've had family come to town, having a place to stay where they can walk to our house. So to me, that sounds like the issue is we just don't want property management companies or non-residents to be having Airbnbs every single weekend. And then the other thing is about the permits. I'm not necessarily opposed to the permits. I understand needing some regulation, but I'm curious if could we just see how many people are actually interested rather than just capping it? Like there might only be 12, there might be 20, and then does it even really matter, right? If all you're doing is you just want to know what houses are doing Airbnb, you could also just look on Airbnb, but if you want the permit just for the regulation, I understand that. And we'd certainly be open to it.
I mean, that process is to kind of bring the building inspector into the fold with it so that, we ensure that there's proper, smoke detectors in bedrooms and that kind of thing. I mean, it's just, that's the real impetus behind all of that.
Right. But yeah, just be curious to know how many people would actually be interested in applying for that permit, because it might not be that far off, and making, an adjustment to 10% might not be that big of a deal. So just something to consider.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else out there? Rudy, I see you. It's on the tip of your tongue, but we'll catch you next time.
I have a bit more, but I'll save it for next time. I'm happy to hear that there's some more meetings and maybe some more discussions.
And definitely put it in writing to us so that we will go point by point to you and answer anything that you want us answered by us.
No, and I was happy to hear from some other people as well. So, put it all a little bit more in perspective, and I'll work on it. I'll work on the concise telling out of my thoughts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? If not, I'll declare tonight's version of the public hearing closed, and the hearing's still open, but this meeting will be closed. And, we'll leave it open until the next hearing that we have, and maybe we'll close it then, maybe we won't. If nobody else has anything, Chris, Dove, any other member of the board? Is everybody still awake? All right. 10 after 9. Thank you, everybody, for coming out for this tonight. Again, we're going to take everybody's thoughts and everyone's words into the final draft of this that goes before the boards for us to decide on. And, you know, I hope everybody feels like they had a chance to speak tonight, and, you know, that we're hearing you and going to do our best to do something for the village that's positive. Good night, everybody. There's no meeting to close. We're going to leave the hearing open for now.
I
Good night.
Have a good night.